The big question on all of our minds, when will this end? When will the stock market rout end? When will the pain with Tesla as a company and as a stock price end? The truth is, none of us know. But I think we do have some optimism in sight, even when it seems we are at peak fear, at peak division, and at peak confusion within the markets. Welcome back, everybody. If you're new, my name's Nicholas, and this is Investing Against the Grain. Look, there's a lot going on right now, and we are in a very tumultuous time. We have division at its peak right now, while tomorrow is going to be the midterm elections. A lot of people have already voted. I voted today myself. We have Elon Musk stirring up some controversy within Twitter, even if it shouldn't be. It is controversy. And on top of that, we have Tesla as a company, or mainly the stock price itself, hurting as a result of a lot of this, and at least the way the narrative is shaping out to be. So what's going on? And what's the reality of the situation? And is it something that we really need to worry about? Is it something that's really going to be a concern or an issue for us in our investments? Well, let's break this down. We have to really take it back a few steps. First, we have to take a look at the Federal Reserve and understand what will cause the Federal Reserve to really make a change within the markets. And the truth is, there are three things that could trigger a pivot or a change of approach by the Federal Reserve. The first thing that could happen is that we see the actual job market capitulate. Right, we see that all of this, growth in jobs and the tightness of the job market, the labor market starts to subside. Right, we start to see higher unemployment. We start to see less job openings. If this happened, the Fed would probably go ahead and change course. The second thing that could happen is that we could see a real crack somewhere in the economy. All right, right now, some of us are starting to see it within the real estate market, but we're not even close to what it would have to be, right? So something that would send a signal that they've done too much, they've gone too far, and now they need to pull it back before they get even more aggressive and really cause a severe damage to not just our economy, but the world economy. The third thing that could happen, that still hasn't happened, at least with the numbers that come out, which looks into the rears, would be proof or numbers that demonstrate that inflation has come down dramatically. And it can't be this, from 9.1 to 8.7 to 8.3, 8.2, right? It needs to be something dramatic, right? We need to move from something like 8.2 down to 7.5, from 7.5 down to 6.8, right? Something like that. Something that shows, okay, inflation is gone. We're in a deflationary period now. If any one of those three things were to happen, you would see the Fed go ahead and change course immediately, if not completely backtrack what they're doing. However, we haven't seen any of those things happen, and it really feels like it's a matter of time. We're seeing layoffs across the board from all types of companies in all types of industries. We're also seeing the housing market really start to capitulate. All right, it's one of the worst housing markets we have seen in a very long time, and that might be the signal that the Fed needs to stop what they're doing and reverse course. Now, the other thing that really seems that we're going to see any day now or any month, any quarter, is the fact that inflation has been coming down, and eventually we should see that in the numbers. We just don't see it yet. And so I think maybe not this week, but maybe in December, maybe January, maybe February, we'll really start to see the truth about what's happening with inflation come through within the CPI, the PCE, right? We'll start to see the real numbers there. We already know that housing is coming down. We already know that lumber, we know that metals, we know that car prices, we know that people aren't spending as much. I mean, we can see it in the economy, right? Housing, rentals, everything. But the Fed doesn't see it yet because they look at backwards looking data and they try to justify that one way or another. That's the first thing we need to know and understand about this market, is that right now it's really the Fed driving it. Now, today's action, especially regarding Tesla, has a lot more to do with short-term noise. And what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, tomorrow is the midterm elections. Now, no matter which way you lean from a political ideology, whether you're completely left or completely right, or maybe you're an independent that has, certain issues that you like from each party, it really doesn't matter. Because right now, the entire narrative, the entire conversation is being held by the extremes of either party. They're dictating a lot of the conversation, a lot of the noise that we see out there, a lot of the rhetoric. So until probably the end of the week, we're not really going to see any of that simmer down. Now, by tomorrow evening, I would imagine we know what the results of the election will be. We'll know whether we're going to have a Republican Congress or a Democratic Congress, or a Republican House and a Democratic Senate, or if it's all going to be Democratic, right? We will know what it's going to look like by tomorrow evening, I imagine. Why does that affect Tesla? Why does that affect Elon Musk? Well, Elon Musk, as you all know, has bought Twitter. And by buying Twitter, well, this has put a lot of people up at arms. Even though Elon Musk tried to get out of it multiple times, people are up at arms about it because, well, he ended up buying it. And so Elon Musk has gone ahead and been very vocal about what he wants to do and how he wants to implement things. Now, there are certain political figures who have pushed back against Elon Musk, and this has created some tension because Elon is the type of person who is going to push back. We'll just put it nicely like that. Elon will push back and he'll make his own opinions heard. Whether he's right or wrong, he's the type of person who will let you know how they feel and what he thinks. Now, being who he is and his status in the world, it carries weight. And so whenever he sits there and he starts getting into conflict with different members of the government, whether he's, for or against them, whenever he starts to, kind of pick battles and talk about things happening with advertisers on Twitter, like all of this just creates noise. And it creates this fog around this other company over here called Tesla. And the reason it creates all of this fog for Tesla is because now Tesla shareholders and mainly institutional investors don't know what's going on, right? The same way that the stock market doesn't like uncertainty with the Fed, well, Tesla as a stock, or individual stocks in general, don't like uncertainty when it comes to their CEOs. And the truth is, right now, there is uncertainty with Elon. It's just the truth of it. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but it is. Let me give you an example. Right now, Twitter is having potential issues with advertisers. Twitter essentially makes all its revenue through advertising. Now, advertisers are starting to pull out or suspending their advertising until after the elections, until after they see any changes that Elon might be doing. Again, there's been a lot of extremism talk about what Elon will do or what he won't do. I feel like Elon's been pretty explicit about what he views as the vision of Twitter and what he means as far as free speech versus hate speech, and how he believes that it needs to be a platform where everybody wants to be on. If we have vitriol on the platform where people are saying hateful, racist, anti-Semitic things, well, guess what? People won't want to be on the platform. And that's been his message. However, people don't trust him. And that's the fact of it. And so a lot of these advertisers are either suspending or pausing and just waiting and watching to see what happens. Now, that hurts Twitter. And the question or the fear becomes, okay, well, if Twitter starts to hemorrhage its revenue source, if Twitter starts to have cash flow problems, will Elon sell more shares of Tesla to fund Twitter? Now, you might be thinking that's ridiculous. Drawing those two connections makes no sense. But believe it or not, I think the numbers don't lie. I mean, just look at the sell-off we had today. Tesla went down 5% while the NASDAQ essentially went up 1%. In reality, Tesla, being a 2 beta to the NASDAQ, should have been up 2%, but instead it sold off by 5%. Now, you also have to imagine that this divisiveness that Elon's in the middle of, right, it could lead a lot of investment funds, people who feel very strongly one way or another from a political perspective, to withdraw their money or sell out or not want to be associated with someone. I already see a lot of people saying that they're not going to buy these certain products that from these advertisers, these companies that have pulled out from Twitter. But this is the type of cancel culture that's just going to continue unless someone just stops, right? It's got to stop at some point. So the point is, who knows when it's going to end? I'm hoping that by tomorrow, maybe a couple days later, we start to simmer down all of this rhetoric, all this political divisiveness. And hopefully, I mean, this is me being the ultra optimistic. Hopefully we can realize that there's more that we have as a society, as the United States, in relation with each other than our political ideologies. There's more to it. We have more in common. All right. I have family members who are Republicans and who are Democrats. I have family members who are extremes on either side. And I get along with all of them. I'm friends with all of them. They're family. But the point is, we get along because there's more that ties us and connects us together rather than red or blue. And so hopefully we can get back to a place that's like that. Even if we're not quite where we were, what we remember from 5-10 years ago, hopefully the current state, the current heightened message and atmosphere that we live in can come down a little bit. Now, I hate talking about politics, especially on a medium like this, because this channel is supposed to be about investing. However, I really have no choice because it's inevitable that this does matter. This matters and affects the markets. The same way I wish I didn't have to talk about the Federal Reserve so much and talk about CPI and PCE and all these things. But guess what? They have an effect on the stock market. They have an effect on your investments. So all this is tied together as much as we wish it wasn't. The same way I wish Russia hadn't invaded Ukraine, but somehow that does have an effect on the world economy, on oil prices, right? Everything seems to be interconnected. So we have to talk about it and we have to address it. Now, what could happen that could be bullish going into the end of the year? I am an optimist, so none of this financial advice. I will warn you right now, I drink from a half full glass. So you should know that before I even continue on my next line of thinking. But with that said, let me paint a picture for you. Now, historically, we know that when government is divided, markets tend to like that. Why? Well, let's go back to what we were talking about before. Markets don't like uncertainty. That's why they don't like what the Fed's doing. That's why Tesla stock doesn't like what Elon's doing right now. But market doesn't like uncertainty. It likes certainty. And what we are certain of is if we have divided government, it's a stalemate. The Democrats can't do anything. The Republicans can't do anything, right? We've seen this when it was Obama's second term. We saw this when it was George Bush's second term. We saw that with Trump, right? And now we're seeing it with potentially Joe Biden if the polls stand up to what it looks like the results will be now. If that happens, from a market perspective, and I'm only speaking from a market perspective, that could be a good sign. Even if it's only Senate and House is split, that could also be a good sign. It's still somewhat of a stalemate. So stalemate's good because it means nothing's going to get done. And sometimes doing nothing is doing something, believe it or not. Just like in your portfolios, long-term investing, sometimes even when a stock is down 5% and we hit a new 52-week low, sometimes doing nothing is doing something. So the market may like that. And we might start to see that towards the end of the week. We also get another CPI reading, I believe, on Thursday. And that might be something that actually starts to finally show how inflation is coming down. It might finally start to be trickling in through the numbers. Maybe. We'll find out. And then we have the rest of the year. Okay, we have the general rally that we could see into the end of the year, the Santa Claus rally, if you will. And that could be something else that could be good for stocks. Now, Tesla specific, there are a lot of bullish things that could still be coming out. All right, we still have the China October numbers that were production numbers that haven't come out yet. And this could be bullish because although we know Tesla delivered about 70,000 wholesale vehicles, and wholesale for Tesla means actual deliveries, right? Whereas like other auto manufacturers, wholesale means they delivered to the dealerships. For Tesla, no dealership, so wholesale means it has to be delivered to the individual who bought the vehicle. But though that number was in the 70,000s, production may have been 80 plus thousand. And that would be a bullish number. That would be a very good signal for how Shanghai is ramping and the strength of what this quarter could look like. Now, there's still a chance that we have a share buyback before the end of the year. Again, remember, companies that do share buybacks after 2022 will be penalized or taxed, I believe, at 1% of the buyback. So companies may want to get ahead of that. Now, again, going to the end of the year, we also have the potential for FSD beta wide release. Now, from what I've seen, I don't have FSD 10.69.3 yet, but from what I've seen, it is a very good update. It seems like it's doing really well. And the most impressive example I've seen so far was watching Kim Parquet. If you haven't seen Kim Parquet's videos, she does this Washington Square test loop, and I would say this is the best we've ever seen FSD handle that loop. And that's a very difficult loop in very small streets. Think like European city type streets. So it was very, very impressive to see. Then we also have new Gigafactory announcements at the end of the year. So for Tesla, there's still a lot of bullishness into the rest of the year. And let's not forget, hopefully, once the elections are over and Twitter drama hopefully starts to die down, then maybe we can get a little more rationale back into the markets and mainly back into Tesla stock once we've gotten away from this fog of politics and Twitter. Because at the end of the day, we're invested in a company called Tesla. And Tesla as a company is very solid. Nothing has changed. Elon may be doing things with Twitter. He may be in the middle of all this divisiveness. The country may be at a peak of hysteria when it comes to politics, left and right fighting with each other. But the company that you're invested in has not changed. They are still on pace to do massive deliveries. They are still on pace to open new gigafactories. They're still on pace to have record deliveries. They're still on pace to do a buyback. They're still on pace to have FSD beta wide release. So be optimistic, because there's no point of not being. And look, no matter what happens tomorrow, politics-wise, be happy for whoever wins, all right? This is a country of democracy. We vote for a reason, right? There's a reason why we have divided government, for checks and balances. And there's a reason why we all can vote the way we are most aligned with. This is the beautiful thing about this country, is being able to express our opinions, to vote the way we want without being persecuted. So whether you win or lose tomorrow, be humble and appreciate the process. At the end of the day, it's not really about the outcome, but what's really beautiful is the process that we go through as a nation, as a country, as a free world. All right. Well, we're going to leave it there. A little bit of a different episode than I normally have. Do me a favor, if you enjoy this type of content, if you enjoy this video, and if you just want to help us out and support greater peace and people coming together and having some type of amicable discussions where rationale and patience and good conversations prevail, do me a favor. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Ring that bell. I love you all. Enjoy the rest of the week. I'll see you Wednesday. Peace.